Most Sunday mornings, as I drive to church early, I pass at least one or two small groups of boys on their bicycles with their fishing poles. They're going to one of the many ponds around here to go fishing. I have not actually tried yelling, "Follow me and I will make you fishers of men." I'm always tempted. I suspect that works better for Jesus than it would for me. But it does, whenever I see them, it makes me think about just how much water we have around here. Like between the golf courses and the homeowners' amenities and the parks and the Corps of Engineers work from before this was subdivisions, it was farm and ranch land, the Soil Service Conservation Corps, whatever the map says it is. Like we've got a lot of water, like a lot of surface water. It's easy to take it for granted. It doesn't have to be that way. I grew up in Dallas, not very far from here. In Dallas, they just dammed Turtle Creek, the actual creek, into a series of small ponds. But that was it. Up here, we mostly let the creeks go free, I suppose for flooding purposes. And then we've dammed every single drainage we could find. It's like a family of beavers somehow learned to drive a cement truck, and they just, took a handful of speed and wet in it. Like, it's crazy. Now, beyond the ponds, which are all man-made, there's another secret of our suburban greenery. Wherever we don't have artificial bodies of water, we have sprinklers. The artificial damming and then the artificial irrigation of our lives accomplishes some really amazing things. The tree canopy, for example, we have around here. The flowers are everywhere, even in the summer. The green lawns, golf courses. Whenever my family returns from vacation, Stephanie and I actually appreciate anew how nice it is here. The place we live is very nice. It is also, in a profound sense, artificial, or at least it doesn't match the reality of the weather, So, and I wonder if something is similarly true of our spiritual lives in suburban culture. Have we perhaps gotten really good at artificially irrigating our souls? Do we live in a world of suburban soul sprinklers? I'm convinced everyone knows or feels, maybe feels is better, everyone feels that their soul needs water. And in a secular world, with God banished far away, the roots of our human souls come up dry, like a shrub in the desert, Jeremiah says. So we seek out water. We seek places for our roots to go. We will find meaning and purpose and sustenance, emotion, things we can tap into and draw water for our hearts. Politics is a big one, of course, for people. Sports is another big one. There were many a night at a private university where I abandoned the dorm room my parents were paying for in order to shiver sleeplessly in a tent for the privilege of painting my very skinny torso so I could be on TV at the front row of the basketball game. Social media is another place we try and find water for our souls. It's often herbicide, but it's wet, so we get confused. Drugs and alcohol, alcohol is also usually wet, but it's toxic in large quantities. But these things, sports, politics, alcohol, social media, they may be your soul sprinklers. I don't think at the moment they're mine particularly. The ones that bother me more are some others, like consumer capitalism. Buy this and your life will be better, that thing, which is a carefully engineered attitude that our culture and particularly our economic system has ingrained in us. I believe it's the chief begetting sin of our culture. It's what gives us ever larger houses that still can't hold our ever large amount of stuff, so we build ever larger storage centers for it. And I can articulate all this very clearly. Also, I love going to Costco, except on the weekends. It's not any fun on the weekends, but the other days of the week, I like it a lot. I like new technology. I like new clothes. I want, and I have, frankly, a nice phone that takes good pictures, and I have a nice couch. Really, I have couches that are comfortable and nice frying pans that are good and heavy in my attic. which I actually had to let someone into this week to do some work. When it disgorged its contents, it covered the upstairs of my house. So I can articulate the problem, but also I turn on that sprinkler, right? Travel nourishes the soul, at least it nourishes my soul. We live in a place that no one wants to visit. Or at least for the sake of the place itself. There are literally 0 people in Rome spending their Sunday afternoon planning their vacation to Adriatica, So we go seek the culture, the history, the art, the beauty of other peoples and other times. And it is good, and it is inspiring, it is eye-opening, and it is world-expanding. But looking at the artifacts of the greatness of the human spirit is not quite the same as living with the sort of spirit that makes such artifacts. And if that sort of travel is too much work, we can go lay on a beach with good drinks and rest our souls with comfort and a story out of a good book. Speaking of stories, there's movies and television, the best of which can make us feel deeply, right? Crying and laughter, fear and wonder. These are deep feelings because we need that, all of us, that indescribable feeling we get when the lights begin to dim and we go somewhere we've never been before, not just entertained, but somehow reborn together. Dazzling images on a huge silver screen, sound that I can feel. Somehow heartbreak feels good in a place like this. Our heroes feel like the best part of us, and the stories feel perfect and powerful. And that is Nicole Kidman's pre-roll ad for AMC theaters. And that is absolutely the equivalent of the hissing, burping, spitting noise your sprinklers make when they come on. Come to AMC and let us water your soul. And she uses rebirth. It's a religious thing. Now, it's possible. We all know people who are doing it. And heck, we're all doing it to some degree. It's possible to get enough artificial soul irrigation to keep going. Maybe even to keep growing, especially when times are reasonably comfortable. And the water bill is real high, which is why material wealth in our culture matters so much, but the soul irrigation stuff is expensive. But it is doable. Deep secularism actually demands soul sprinklers, economic or ideological or emotional. And when a society gets good enough at artificial irrigation of the soul, well, it sort of works. The flowers in my front yard, which are native to Honduras or something, but they don't know any better. They're just happy to be there. Such people really don't know any different. But in contrast to the flowers in my front yard, in my backyard, there is a cedar elm, which is the same kind of tree that's in the narthex this morning. I do understand that tree is artificially located in the narthex, and this is not ideal for my point, but also I want you to know it's healthy. It had a 60-mile-an-hour journey here to the church, and that caused fall to arrive a little early for its leaves, but it is healthy, and we are going to plant it outside to replace a tree that has died to meet the city of McKinney's minimum tree requirements. So it's going to go in, it's going to grow, it's going to be great. It's going to hang out there for a month. But the cedar elm in my backyard, that one is much, much bigger. The arborist estimates it's maybe 150 or 175 years old, which means it was a sapling sometime around the time of the Civil War. And there were no people around to water it then. There were obviously no sprinklers. And it grew because it was by a stream of sorts when it rains. It was wet, though, and it has survived more hot summers in Texas than you or I ever will. It did not shrivel up with anxiety during a drought. It is big, and it is tall, and it is scarred by the wounds of the last 2 centuries, but it is still there. And it is that sort of tree that Jeremiah and the psalmist had in mind when they tried to come up with a way to describe what a faithful person looked like. Jeremiah framed it as trust in God, the one who trusts in the Lord. What the Gospels call belief, which is not intellectual assent to an idea, like I believe God exists, but it is the willingness to put our life on the line for it. I was at a zipline course at the Rowlett Creek Bottomlands in Plano, where there are many trees nourished by the stream, actually big trees. That's why the zipline course is there, so you can go between the trees. And at the end, we were high up in the trees on a platform, like 3 or 4 stories up in the air. And we were supposed to hook ourselves into an automatic belay device and then just walk off the platform or jump off the platform. And the belay device is going to catch you, right? And then slowly lower you to the ground. I watched people do it. I believed that it would work. Like if you'd asked me, does the belay device work? I'd be, yes, I believe the belay device works. So I grabbed the carabiner and I locked it in, and then, like intellectually I assented, but it's a different thing to jump. And that jumping, that stepping off the platform, that is belief. Belief is not agreeing that God exists. Belief is being willing to step off the platform, the leap of faith. And if you do that, Jeremiah says, the psalmist says, and Jesus says, we'll get there in a couple weeks, then you will find water for your souls. Not artificial irrigation, but like true living water, the sort that will sustain you when the rest of that stuff stops working. When tapping the credit card doesn't do it, when the movie screen goes dim, when the airplane is more pain and hassle and expense than you can bear, when the bottle is empty but your soul is still dry, when politics is a disaster, so like today, when the Cowboys are terrible, also today. None of this other stuff works. The living water of Jesus Christ and his love for us is still there. Our leaves can still be green and supple, our branches tender and able to bend, and we can still bear fruit. Which brings us to the fruit snacks. Henry, would you throw me a fruit snack? All right, you can get out your fruit snacks. If you haven't eaten them already, I hope. If you didn't, you can open them now, or at least somebody next to you needs to open them. If you want to save yours for later so you have a little treat, just make sure you can see them. All right? I believe they come in 5 different shapes. I've done some research. I believe there are 5 of them. There is an apple, and there's a pear. Helpfully for my metaphor, these grow on trees. There are also grapes and strawberries, and they don't grow on trees. Obviously, this is less helpful for my metaphor. And lastly, there's a carrot. It's not even a fruit. Honestly, I don't know what to say about the carrot. Both Jeremiah and the psalmist emphasize that like a tree by a stream, the people who trust and who believe, they turn their life over to God, they bear fruit. Not all the same kind of fruit, right? There are apples and pears and grapes and strawberries and carrots, I guess. But Jeremiah and the psalmist's point is not just that they don't die in the drought, but that even in the drought, they bear fruit and bless the world. Different kinds of fruit and carrots, but they bear fruit. And my point here is that the promise in which we are planted, is both life for us and fruit for the world. Like the promise of Christian life is not just for the tree, nor is it just for the fruit. It is both life for the tree and fruit for the world, right? Life for the person and fruit for the world, in good times and in bad times. And that is why our stewardship committee this year chose as our campaign theme, Planted in Promise. And it's why our St. Andrew's Imagineers, led by Bill Buck, brought that metaphor to life in the narthex. Bill and Logan and Eric Austin did a ton of work this week to bring that metaphor into our church so we can all see it, and this month it will be there for us. We are planted in promise. We send our roots out into the stream of living water in this place, and the promise of the fruit that we bear is then for the nourishment of the world. So there's like the stuff for us, the quiet sense of God's promise in prayer, the shiver running down your back when we lift our voices in song, the taste of the wine, the blood of the new covenant, the forgiveness of your sins on your lips, the hand that you grasp as you say, Our Father. There's all of that life. And then there's the fruit at work, at your job, at the hospital, at Climb, at a band concert, at Hugs, at all the places you will go this week with your spiritual apples and pears and strawberries and grapes and carrots. We are planted in that promise. You know, it's easier to see this outside of town, but even in the city, you can see it if you look for it. You can see where the creeks and drainages in the landscape are. And you can see them because there's this line of trees that grows along their banks. We are that line of trees. The strong, green, towering witness that there is water here, living water. And I don't want to be golf course grass or front bed flowers or even a parking lot median tree. I want to be that cedar elm or that towering bur oak that's on the margin of Wilson Creek just east of Hardin. The kind of tree that makes one pause and just go, wow. Wow. The kind of tree that feeds the world with its fruits and carrots. The kind of tree that says, I don't need soul sprinklers, for there is water here. Amen.